And now, for the moment you've all been waiting for.
I want to see the chat blow up with energy. Like, come on, people. Let's get hype. If you're ready, let's go.
All right. How's everybody doing tonight on this Monday evening? My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. You know, tonight we're going to talk about the baby Emmanuel case. This is an upload, so it's not live. So I hope you guys enjoy what I'm presenting. I just didn't feel like going live. Felt like presenting this without having to worry about the chat. And, you know, I hope that you guys understand. Sometimes I enjoy the laid back upload stuff, and, you know, it's a lot easier than to have to respond to the chat. So let's go and let's see what Steve has to say tonight about Rebecca Haro, because, you know, as you've been listening to my channel and a lot of these other creators, you've heard that these parents are far from innocent in any of the respect or regard that they've been pushing. So let's see what Steve has to say a little bit about this and what new information he has.
Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another 7 o'clock premiere. If it's your first time stopping by the channel, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you won't regret it. You're a returning subscriber. As always, guys, welcome back, and I do appreciate support. Guys, damn, I forgot to turn my sign on. But anyway, guys, listen. We've been covering this story about missing toddler from Yucaipa, California, EMMANUEL Haro. Now, police are looking and searching for what they presume as a child that has long since passed.
Yes, he's right on that. You know, they have not specifically stated that they found the body, but they do believe that the dad had something to do with murdering the child. And I've been saying 7 weeks. I stand to be corrected. 7 months. This child was 7 months old when the father took it upon himself to take him out of this world. As you've heard in prior videos, there was blood stain in the house. There was blood stain on the baseboards. The mother had thrown away all the clothing and also all the pictures of the newborn baby, which is just trifling if you ask me. Let's get to where he starts talking about the mom.
For real, Rebecca Haro, the mother of Emmanuel Haro, is a dumbass. And what she's doing is incriminating her, and she don't even know. I don't know who's guiding this woman and giving her advice, but she needs to stop, because at the end of the day, she might be left holding the bag for this. And you'll understand what I say when I explain this. But what I'm talking about right now, ladies and gentlemen, is this woman had a jail interview yesterday and spoke to reporters, or a reporter. And some of the stuff she said is stupid. And it's a big difference with what she's doing and what they show Jake out there doing. And I think, honestly, All of this is planned. Remember, he's been in this position before. She hasn't. And if she keep this up, she gonna wind up being smoked for her role in the disappearance of said child.
So let's listen what this mother had to say.
Developing news from the Inland Empire, where the search continues for 7-month-old Emmanuel Hara, who is presumed dead. Investigators say the baby's parents faked his kidnapping. KTLA 5's Jillian Smuckler live in San Bernardino with the very latest in this investigation. Good morning.
Good morning, Lou. Yeah, major developments in just the past 24 hours for that search for 7-month-old Emmanuel. Now, what we could tell you is that his father was spotted over the weekend searching for his body, while his mother gave her first jailhouse interview, maintaining her innocence and standing by her story, saying she's committed to finding her son. Now, Rebecca and Jake Haro, they were arrested at their home in Cabazon on Friday on suspicion of murder with malice. They arrested the couple 8 days after the baby's mother reported that Emmanuel had been stolen from her, all while she was changing his diaper in the parking lot of a Big Five. But in a jailhouse interview with a Southern California News Group reporter yesterday, she maintained her innocence despite law enforcement accusing the couple of killing their son. She reportedly said she isn't giving up on her baby and that she wished she were out searching for him. She also allegedly shook her head when asked about rumors that days before she reported the kidnapping, she went to the Big Five, told employees that her car was burglarized, and asked whether the business had surveillance cameras. Now, her husband, Jake, also made headlines over the weekend. He was spotted wearing an orange jumpsuit yesterday looking for his missing baby. He was searching a remote area in Moreno Valley with detectives. It is still unclear what led them there, given it's about 10 miles south of where Emmanuel was first reported missing. But after an hours-long search yesterday, investigators say Emmanuel's body still has not been found. Now, the couple is standing by their story of what exactly.
You saw, there you had it. You saw the mother saying, I wish I was out there searching for my baby. She's holding to her story. She is telling the reporter in jailhouse interview that happened. But listen to all the contradicting stories. She supposedly showed up to the Big Five, reported that her car had been broken into a day before she concocted that story. Come on, man. You got to do better. Got to do better. This showed that she has everything to do with this child's disappearance and possible murder. Let's watch some more.
Several breaking updates in the search for Emmanuel Haro. This is a picture per KABC TV of the missing 7-month-old's dad in an orange jumpsuit with detectives searching for his son. Jake Haro and the boy's mom, Rebecca, were arrested on Friday. Both are now accused of murder in the death of their son, Emmanuel Haro, but his body has still not been found. And another twist that we're following, even though we saw Jake Haro, the dad, out with detectives, his wife, the boy's mom, is still reportedly sticking to her story that the child was kidnapped in an interview she just did from jail. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
So you tell me, doing a jailhouse interview, holding on to your innocence, how are you saying this, but the father is saying that he murdered the child? Make that make sense to me.
Because both of his parents have been charged with murder. They believe that this child was killed. Here are newly released mugshots for Jake and Rebecca Haro. Both have been in jail since Friday morning in Riverside County, California. They were arrested by the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office. This is video that Sheriff's Office put online on Friday, showing both of them being walked out of their home. This was in the morning. It appears they were still in PJs and boxers as they were being led to cruisers to be taken into custody. All of this taking place outside Los Angeles. Now, it's unclear what the evidence really is that detectives have that pushed them to make an arrest and to believe that Emmanuel was murdered. Now, there was hope overnight that Emmanuel's body would be found. Here is an image from KABC TV of Jake Harrow standing with detectives in an area off a highway about 22 miles from his house. This happened last night. Now, deputies said as Jake was there, they searched the area with cadaver dogs, but they did not find Emmanuel's remains. Now, as for Jake's wife, Rebecca, you probably saw her initial interview on KABC, her alleged cry for help, saying that her son had been abducted and she was attacked. Here's her story.
Got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
Now, that is an alleged lie, according.
So, listening to the story, what we've been told and what we've heard since this alleged kidnapping is this didn't happen at all. There was no cameras on at the Big Five. There was no cameras across the way at the business that was closed down. But they did get footage from a liquor store across the way that showed Rebecca pulling into the Big Five parking lot. And guess what? No baby Emmanuel in the car seat. No sign of him. No sign of an abduction. None of that. So think about that a minute. When you go into thinking about this mother being innocent with her story, think about all that. Also, think about this. There had been family members that hadn't seen the baby, supposedly since the baby was born. Grandma stated that she never met baby Emmanuel. Other family members said that they don't ever remember baby Emmanuel being around. Not at a funeral, not at the football game that she supposedly had him at with her stepson, where she went to the Big Five to get the mouthpiece. So let that sink in a minute as you listen to this lady's story.
To deputies in Southern California. Rebecca is also, though, now talking from jail. She just gave an interview. It was posted actually around the same time that Jake was out with detectives. And before I get into what she is now saying, let me remind you how she and her husband went public with their alleged crocodile tears more than a week ago. Let's play that soundbite by Rebecca again.
Got him out of the car seat and I laid him down and so I could get his diapers ready. And somebody said, "Hola," and that's all I remember.
So there's Rebecca, like hyperventilating on KABC. That was on August 14th. I will note, the television station says they didn't see any tears in her eyes as she gave that emotional soundbite. She claims that she and Emmanuel went to a sporting goods store in Yucaipa, California, Thursday night after they were at a football game for Harrow's other son. Before going into the store, Rebecca claimed that Emmanuel needed a diaper change, so she went to change him, and that's when she heard someone say, "Hola." The next thing she knows, she says she was on the ground and Emmanuel was gone. Now, she had the black eye to prove it, right? That she was attacked. Well, that story seems to really be falling apart. We've been told that that bruise.
Also, as I've said prior, if she had any kind of lacerations in her head area, supposedly she got hit from behind, that black eye would not be prevalent if she got hit in the head. But obviously, she didn't think that far in advance.
Looks like it had been healing for a good amount of time. And it's come to light that she actually reportedly had that black eye nearly 2 weeks before her call to law enforcement and her story of this alleged abduction. Here's what Jake Harrow said to cameras from KABC as well.
"Whoever took our son, please give him back."
Hey, before we get back to this episode of On the Case, one of the most watched shows on all of YouTube, I need to take a moment to talk about our partner and sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. This is America's largest injury law firm. They've recovered over $25 billion from Morgan, makes it so easy on this family. I mean, if this was a true story, this would be terrifying, that this boy would be abducted in the parking lot of a sporting goods store and his mom assaulted. But law enforcement, in the hours after, the days after that story was first told, they say they found inconsistencies in what Rebecca was saying, and they confronted her about it. And that is when they say she stopped cooperating with the investigation. In the days after that,
of course she stopped collaborating with the police. They asked her to take a polygraph. She had multiple inconsistencies. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to understand what was going on with that situation. If you watch true crime anytime at all, you would know that this screams foul. Foul.
That, law enforcement served multiple search warrants at the Haro's home in a rural part of Southern California. You're looking at drone video here by missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher, who has come on this show multiple times with us as he has been following this case from Southern California. You can see members of law enforcement in this drone video taking bags of evidence from around the property. Now, this couple in TV interviews, they appeared to be a unified front, sitting next to each other, calling for more to be done in hoping that their son could be found. But then last night, a very interesting development, because on the same day that you had Jake out searching with law enforcement, or at least standing there as they searched, again, they didn't find Emmanuel's body as they were searching in an area with Jake Haro. Rebecca yesterday did an interview with a reporter from the Southern California news group. And she, according to this interview, is not giving up her story. She said, quote, "I will not give up. I will not give up on my baby." She maintained that she is telling the truth.
How can you say that, but you don't know where the baby is? Your husband has stated he killed the child. How can you say any of that? Obviously, she doesn't know what her husband's saying. Otherwise, she wouldn't be holding so true behind her words in this interview. She's going to bury herself and the husband because there's huge inconsistency there, don't you believe?
She was assaulted and Emmanuel was kidnapped. The reporter did note that the black eye, it's still noticeable, but it has significantly faded under Rebecca's face. She also, it doesn't appear to have any other wounds. If she was to fall on the ground after getting punched, it seems that that small little black eye was the only injury that she had after this alleged assault. Now, it's unclear if Rebecca has had any communication with her husband since her arrest. It's also unclear if she has a lawyer or any sort of representation. She is due in court tomorrow, as well as Jake. We do know that Jake has an attorney. His lawyer's name is Vincent Hughes. He went on News Nation and said his client is innocent, asked why more wasn't being done by law enforcement to search for a boy that his client said was kidnapped and missing. He said his client was cooperating with law enforcement. Here's more of what he said.
Why have Rebecca and Jake stopped cooperating with the police if they're desperate to find the baby and the police are looking for the baby?
I don't know where the statement that they stopped cooperating came from, Ashley. I spoke to the detectives yesterday, offered for Jake to continue to speak with them, have not been made aware of any requests today to speak with Jake. I don't represent Rebecca. That needs to be very clear, but I have not been asked to produce Jake. I offered to produce Jake. They voluntarily turned over all of their electronic devices, including the passwords. I think that's something that's huge that nobody has been made aware of.
Now, that interview was prior to Jake's arrest. When his client was arrested, we reached out to Hughes' office. We spoke to an assistant who said that he would get back to us, and we have not heard back at the time of this recording. There are several major questions that remain unanswered right now in this.
There are a lot of questions that need to be answered, such as how come this guy who almost killed his prior child, who is brain dead almost, on almost like 24-hour care, is blind, was beaten, choked by this man, and all he got was 6 months in prison, a parenting class, and here we are again talking about the same guy who admitted to doing something to his son. How come those questions aren't being asked? How come that's not being part of the discussion?
Story. The biggest ones, of course, where's Emmanuel? What happened to Emmanuel? But it's also unclear the last time anyone saw this boy. True crime blogger Annie Elise told News Nation that it's been at least a month, according to people who she has spoken with. It's also been reported that people didn't see Emmanuel at that football game that his mom claims they were at before she says she was assaulted. It's also been reported that the Haros were in the parking lot of that sporting goods store in Yucaipa weeks ahead of the night that Rebecca.
So where was Emmanuel? Supposedly not at the football game. Weeks before they went to this Big Five to scope it out, obviously. Just premeditated. Premeditated. If that is true, that is premeditation.
Says she was attacked, and the couple allegedly asked employees of that sporting goods store where their security cameras were because at the time they were claiming their car had been broken into. Then you just have to wonder what Jake told detectives yesterday to bring him to that field. Was he
I apologize for that. Just like always, in the midst of the good stuff, I get bumped. Well, here we go. Premeditated is what I said last. Premeditated should be looked at, in this case, all the way around.
attacked? And the couple allegedly asked employees of that sporting goods store where their security cameras were because at the time they were claiming their car had been broken into. Then you just have to wonder what Jake told detectives yesterday to bring him to that field. Was he just toying with them? Or does he truly know where Emmanuel's body is? And is he completely splitting from his wife's story that she was attacked? Now, while we're here talking about Jake, it's also important to talk about.
So if he's splitting from that story, that means that he's going on his own. He does have an attorney. She does not. That means he's going out with the police looking for his son while she's in jail proclaiming her innocence. How has this happened? Let me know in the chat.
About his history. In 2018, he was arrested for willful child cruelty. He was convicted of that in 2023, and he's currently on probation. And that has raised a lot of questions for prosecutors and how he was able to get that deal. The Daily Breeze media outlet has an affidavit from that case. It says that Haro's 10-week-old daughter was sent to the hospital with fractured ribs, just 10 weeks old. True crime blogger Abby Blabby spoke to the adoptive mom of that little girl who's now 7 years old. And the woman says, the girl's blind. She can't speak, all because of what Jake Haro allegedly did. Haro also was expected in court next month for allegedly violating his probation on that case for having a firearm. Now he is charged with murder, just like his wife, and both are doing.
So he's on probation for having a firearm. I thought he was on parole for that 6-month stint. Nobody's talking about that. I heard in a statement that he was not in good standing with parole. So now he's on probation for the firearm. But what happened to the parole? We're going to have to dig into that. Because if he's on parole and he's not in good standing in that regard, the probation, parole, the murder charge, not looking good for you, Jake.
in court tomorrow on those charges in Riverside County, California, as the search for little Emmanuel continues. Joining us now once again is missing persons private investigator Steve Fisher, who has been following this case on the ground in Southern California. And Steve, right now you are where we see these images of Jake Haro yesterday with law enforcement. They weren't able to find Emmanuel here. What are you seeing out there right now?
Well, I haven't seen any search parties out here today. If they are, they're not in the immediate area. Right behind me is the area just over that ridge. I've been taking a look by drone.
See, that is a huge property. It's a huge property. I mean, it's land-wise, it looks huge, even though that is probably the fence line, but there's a construction site almost next to this adjacent lot. So there was police and a YouTuber out there looking for the baby. But this is a huge property. Like, there's a lot of stuff to look through, look around, and the flatter it is, the harder it is to see something that is just a month old. You know what I mean? Like, this ground looks pretty damn hard, and you couldn't just bury a 7-month-old in this hard-ass ground. It's possible, but hey, I grew up in West Texas. The ground looks just like this, and it's not easy to just get a shovel and go out back and bury a hole. So I believe that your child is nowhere near this residence.
There's not anything going on in there. It was really kind of a bizarre circumstance yesterday, with what happened.
What do you think? I mean, we can only know, only detectives at this point know what Jake Haro told them in custody that got him the opportunity to go out to this area. And there was this hope that this was, in a very sad case, the potential that we could find Emmanuel's remains, and it didn't happen. I guess, what do you make of that? Because, I mean, at this point, Jake Haro is accused of being, he looked right into the camera as if that there was a kidnapping, so he's not someone to trust. But what do you make of the fact that nothing seems to have come of?
Well, they both did. They were both on camera pleading for people to help them find their baby. Now one has admitted, the other one's still pleading. Who do you believe? Who do you believe?
That whatsoever.
It's all right. I mean, it's not a regular thing for an inmate to be taken out of custody like that and be taken to a crime scene location. It's in rare circumstances, in cases where body's hard to find. I don't think they would bring him out here and really felt confident in the information, whatever information he was giving them. And that it's bizarre. And they didn't seem to spend a whole lot of time here either. They wrapped up fairly quick. You would think that if he was like, I know it was this general area, they would have left search and rescue out longer, they would have left the cans out longer. We saw detectives searching out in the field for a while. I don't know, maybe they weren't looking for some other type of evidence. Maybe it had been moved. Maybe there's a cell phone. Maybe there's something else, although they did have canines out there. So it's really, it's strange. It seems like they gave up fairly quickly, or lost faith in his statements fairly quickly.
Steve, the next question is a pretty morbid question, but that's the direction that this story's taken now that it's a murder investigation. It's unclear when the last time anyone saw Emmanuel Haro. It's been speculated at least a month. I mean, long before this alleged story of a kidnapping that his mom said outside the sporting goods store. I mean, realistically speaking, and this is the morbid part of the question. I mean,
also, there was a sighting of these two at a local do-it-yourself type hardware store, and they were supposedly buying a Sawzall. If you know what a Sawzall is, a lot of individuals use it to cut wood, carpentry, things like that. But many people that are deviants use it to dismember people. So, did they dismember this baby? Is that why it's so hard for them to find it? Share your thoughts with me in the chat.
mean, what exactly could law enforcement find? How much could law enforcement find when it comes to actually locating the remains of Emmanuel Haro?
Well, it's going to depend if he's above or below ground. So let's say he's above ground, which is what it looked like how they were looking yesterday. This is, we've been in a heat wave here, and this is already a hot part of Southern California. So 100-degree weather, if it's been a month, a small child, the decomp process will happen pretty quick. And then also this type of area, there's predators out here. There's coyotes, mountain lion. There's all types of stuff out here. So, and that we see in search and rescue all the time. Predators will spread remains.
Yeah, he said a lot right there. There's a lot of natural element that would speed up the decomposition. Also, the animals around the area could take the baby off somewhere. I mean, it's just terrible to think about. But could they possibly be tried without a body? You let me know about that.
And whatnot. However, cadaver canines can still pick up that scent, and so they would be able to find something, and from there, kind of piece it together.
That was going to be my next question, just because I think for us on the outside, we probably take for granted how effective a dog can be in a search. I know the dogs were at the Haro's home when they were looking for evidence there. I mean, how long ago could a body have been put somewhere and for a cadaver dog still to pick up on a scent?
Oh, cadaver dogs can pick up 100-year-olds. So they train them on Civil War grave stuff. It's amazing what they can do. But, the canine is just doing a task. It's playing a game. It's really the handler has to be just as well trained as well, because if they're not picking up the detections from the canine, it's a little different with cadaver dogs or HRD dogs. If they don't just trail right to
I don't know how a mother could be up there on that camera faking her emotion like this. How can you even deceive not only yourself, but deceive everybody else that your child was taken from you, pulling at the heartstrings when your husband admit to killing the baby?
location of a body. I mean, I've been on searches before where a person's been missing a long, long time, and that those cells, that scent that the canines are trained to pick up on, has actually gotten into the soil and grown up into tree roots, and so they'll hit on a tree. You have to backtrack, So it really depends on the situation. But now something like this, where we're talking about something that's been out here a month, it's going to be a lot easier. But I have also been on searches where, canine handlers clearly have missed, the signals. I think that happened in the Chris Watts case. I didn't really follow that case too closely, but I heard that was, something that happened there.
We were talking before we started recording just a little bit about the jurisdictional aspects of how this is going to play out, because tomorrow is when both of them are listed, according to online court records, to be in Riverside County, California, in court, but their court people could not confirm or deny whether or not that's actually going to happen. San Bernardino County is the agency that arrested the couple. They have been working the case since Rebecca Haro claimed that she had been assaulted in the parking lot in Yucaipa. How could that come into play? Just with how the area and the jurisdictions and the lines and everything that's kind of playing out with this.
So this is,
that's interesting, all that they've reported on. Let's get back to the ground. And they're at the location again. Let's hear what they got to say about that.
a detective actually notes in the probable cause affidavit that came in a couple different times, came into the police station and said, I really couldn't imagine it at the beginning, but now I'm convinced it was, the baby's mother, and trying to lay down the story about how it was not him, it was the mother, and so selling her out. And hey, maybe it's true. Who knows? I'm sure it's probably they both had a hand in it. But it seems like the same thing here. Like Jake's trying to save himself. He's smart enough to know that's taking them on a false field trip out here isn't going to help him one bit. So I think there's got to be something to this out here.
Right, because that's the thing is like if you're going to lead detectives out there and be like, oh, this is definitely where it happened, and then you don't find anything. And for them, to your point, I mean, they're not out there today. You would think if there was a credible lead that they would at least still be searching, but we haven't had any reports today that they're still looking around there, to at least our understanding. If they're in court tomorrow, it'll be interesting to see what comes out. And then to your point about the kind of the separation of the two, it even goes back to Jake having his own attorney, who I assume is giving him counsel. And then here's Rebecca talking to a local news reporter, still sticking, and they're on completely two different sides. So something it feels like it's heading that direction. This might be a difficult question to answer, but when you look at I just think of the area I see behind you, Steve, and I think of Rebecca and Jake Haro. I mean, can someone, even for as vast as the area is, I mean, I don't get the sense that they are avid outdoors people that could handle the terrain to be able to even bring, if gosh, they took young Emmanuel and then put him somewhere. Just from what we've seen about them, frankly, they just don't appear to be in great shape. And so it just seems like that limits where the body could actually be.
I think he, unfortunately, was probably either tossed from the vehicle, because there was like a irrigation, underpass, or they didn't go very far into that. I don't think they drove into the area because that gate, I think, is locked all the time, although it's private property. I get the same impression. I don't think he's going to be far off the road. That's why we didn't see search and rescue or detectives going too far up into those hills. They seem to be looking close to the bridge area.
Yeah, and however this story continues on, it's obviously just an incredibly sad story.
Yes, indeed. Let's hear from one more person. This is Hidden True Crime, and she's going to discuss a little bit of what is unveiling. Here we go.
More major developments in the case of baby Emmanuel Haro, the 7-month-old reported missing out of Yucaipa, California. Following the arrest of his parents, Rebecca and Jake Haro, investigators announced that they no longer believe that Emmanuel is alive. And now we're learning that Jake himself may be cooperating with police and the San Bernardino search and rescue team to recover his son's remains. For weeks, many speculated, even right here at Hidden True Crime, that Rebecca might eventually turn on Jake now that the two are separated behind bars, maybe even trying to strike a deal to protect herself. But
that's what I don't understand is why she's staying silent. Why isn't she speaking what she knows? She has to know something.
In a surprising turn, it looks like Jake may have been the first to break. Sunday afternoon, a photo surfaced online that shows Jake Haro dressed in his jail-issued jumpsuit and escorted by investigators as they searched along the westbound shoulder of the 60 freeway near Gilman Springs Road in Moreno Valley. Cadaver dogs were also brought in to assist. And so far, baby Emmanuel has not been located. But the fact that Jake is out there with investigators suggests he may be finally acknowledging what police have believed for some time, that Emmanuel is no longer alive. It also raises the question, could Jake be trying to work out some kind of deal in exchange for leading?
I believe that that's what he's doing. At this point, it seems like everybody who's killing people is looking for a deal. Work with me, work with me, work with me, and I'll tell you where the baby is. I'll turn on Rebecca. I'll do what I got to do in order to save myself.
Authorities to his son. And of course, there's also the possibility that he doesn't fully remember where Emmanuel was left, given the vast terrain, or that he could even be stalling just to get a break from his jail cell. That's what many have speculated. But regardless of his motives, what we're seeing is movement, and movement means progress in this case. There have also been reports that the day before Rebecca and Jake were taken into custody, Riverside County Sheriff's deputies responded to a call about possible abuse in Moreno Valley. Well, this wasn't at the couple's home in Cabazon. Authorities confirmed that the call was directly connected to the Haro family. And at this point, details, they're limited. And investigators have only said,
Yeah, if you don't know, a house across the street from the Haro residence caught on fire. Could there have been evidence in that home that burned up? Could the baby have been in that home? They're still investigating the fire, but the fire mysteriously was lit by two homeless people, according to the person on the ground who videotaped it, and he was supposedly a YouTuber. But that's just more suspicious activity.
that the abuse investigation is ongoing. What we do know is that the Haro's 2-year-old child has already been removed from the home for safety. But there's also speculation that the call may tie back to Jake's ex-wife, who recently filed a domestic violence protection order against Jake for herself and their son Eli. It's not clear yet if those allegations are what triggered the deputy's visit or if there's another layer to the story. But in a live interview I did Sunday night with Ahmed Bayozo, citizen journalist with On the Tira, he speculated on possibilities. And you can find that interview in the full playlist of this case. That is.
All this is extremely interesting when it comes to this missing child. What happened to baby Emmanuel? Will he be found? Will his remains be found? Because at this point, they don't believe that he's missing, that he was kidnapped. There is belief that he is no longer around. These parents are playing games, it appears, looking for an easy way out. After the damage that Jake has done to prior children, there is no need for leniency on his behalf, in my opinion. The same thing with Rebecca. If she comes out to know more than she is letting on, or she concocted that plan, she needs to be held premeditated murder. My name is 12 Gauge, and if you liked what I present on my channel, please hit the like, subscribe, and share button. Please leave a comment. And please keep coming back and let people know that the channel is about trying to present the most accurate information and not speculation or rabbit holes. Till we get some more information, I'm going to tell the maestro to cue that music. Till next time, stay safe and watch your six.